Hey guys, let's talk today about mobility and why it matters so much for injury prevention and how limited mobility or range of motion can negatively affect your body and cause pain, injuries, and discomfort and any other type of aches. One example that I like to use a lot is the pendulum theory that physical therapist Charlie Weingroff talks a lot about, and it basically talks about where you have a joint, you also have range of motion on each side of that joint, whether it be flexion, extension, or internal, external rotation. You have a limited amount of range of motion available each way. And that's obviously different for different people. But the basic idea is that we have a certain amount of range of motion available on each side of the joint. With the pendulum theory, when we have range of motion illustrated like this here, we also have a natural center, also called joint centration, where your body will naturally find its centered position based on how much range of motion you have available on each side, and it always comes down to be right in the middle of how much external and internal rotation you have available, and that's how your joint can center themselves and find their normal resting positions and postures. So using the pendulum theory here, let's pretend that we have limited range of motion in either one of flexion or extension, and we only have this much range of motion available on one side. So now what's going to happen to my center joint position, or my natural center, is not going to be in the same spot. What's going to happen, my new center, if you will, or perceived center for the body, is going to be right here. And that's not going to be optimal because, of course, there's a whole lot of range of motion that we can't access here, or that we don't have available for whatever reason it might be, which is something that needs to be identified. But a flawed center gives a false perception of where your joint is positioned. And that alone can cause a lot of muscle imbalances, bad recruitment patterns, and any types of damage on ligaments, tendons, joint capsules, and anything of that nature. Another thing that can happen also in the injury world, if you will, is, let's say you have your joint range of motion here. Let's say that we have someone who's really tight in both flexion and extension. Their natural center might be in the right position, but you have so little range of motion available that with any type of movement, you'll find yourself very restricted, and your body, that will just make your body compensate with other areas, other muscles, other joints, and that will also cause a lot of stress on the body. So whether it be just restriction in range of motion on the one side, or both sides of the full spectrum, either internal, external rotation, flexion, extension, adduction, abduction, your joints won't be able to center themselves properly, and this can cause a lot of issues down the road. And injuries don't happen overnight. Okay, that's something we know, and I've talked about this before, and I drew a nice little bucket over here to talk about the bucket analogy again when it comes down to injuries. It's something I've talked about before, and the way it works is you have a bucket with the top of the bucket really being your injury threshold. So every time you have a faulty movement pattern and move a certain way and your body doesn't work properly, like highlighted over here, it adds one drop of water in the bucket. Does one drop of water in the bucket going to make a big difference in terms of causing a significant injury or causing a serious amount of pain? Probably not. Over time, though, the water just keeps accumulating in the bucket and rises up and rises up and rises up, only to get all the way to the top and spills, and that's when injuries or pain starts occurring. So you have a lot of people having pain or injuries, and they're like, I don't understand, my shoulder just started hurting this morning. I didn't really do anything. I didn't tweak it. I don't know what happened. It just started hurting, and then it's been hurting for a while. So that would make sense following this theory here, right? Because they've had like either a faulty pendulum going on with their joint, or a bad recruitment pattern, or something along those lines that we just mentioned. And over time, the damage accumulates and accumulates until the bucket just spills, and that causes the injury or the pain or whatever it is. So hopefully this all makes sense. If you have any questions, just hit me up, and I'll see you guys next time.